Chapter 5 Law of Receiving. Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, running over. Luke 6:38. Understanding reduces the greatest to simplicity, and lack of it causes the least to take on the magnitude of complexity. In order to make Christianity practical, we must understand Christianity and obey the law on which it is founded. The teaching of Christ shows the way back from wrong results of selfish living to the love, intelligence, and power of God. By a man's words, deeds, and actions, he reveals whether he has yet found the way. God exists in man as man's highest concept of perfection, and comes forth through man's faith and works as a redeeming love, intelligence, and power. He who seeks a greater life with getting as his objective does not seek life in trueness of spirit. To the extent, and so long as, any material object remains between the mind of the seeker and the law of God, the two are held apart and do not become one. In the same degree that a man holds to personal opinion and desire, he is limited in knowing and experiencing the limitless authority and power endowed him by his Creator. In a state of limited understanding, we reason that we must get before we can give, and then we turn and walk in the same mental rut as before by reasoning that we must give before we can get. But in our lack of understanding, we continue to leave the getting idea foremost in our thought, and we shut out the spirit of giving. Giving, which is the first or fundamental law of life, is the first law of all creation. The attitude of getting is the law of life in a congested state, or in repressed action. As long as getting dominates a mind, that mind is in a paralyzed condition, being limited in its action in accord with the fundamental law of creation. The radio has aided greatly in explaining the process of the law of giving and receiving, or prayer and blessing. The principles involved are very similar. In fact, they are the same, except that one is mechanical and the other mental. When the operator projects a program, he stirs up a vibration in the air that goes forth to accomplish what it will. He has nothing more to do with it after it has been projected. The ether, or the air, carries the vibrations to any station that is capable of receiving and reproducing it. When we pray, we in turn stir up a vibration with our desires. This also is received by a force determined according to the power, the purpose, and the sincerity of our prayer. Often, when we pray, we think that all that is necessary is to keep on praying, with the result that we never adjust ourselves to become receptive to receive our answers, and so complain when we do not get them promptly. A dreamer or a wisher is one who is continually praying, sending out his ideas, his desires, and is so busy in dreaming that he gets all his enjoyment out of his dreams. He doesn't know or realize that to release his dream and allow it to go forth to accomplish what it will in time return to him for good. After you form a definite, clear outline of your desire, then release your thought Godward. Let it go, like throwing a ball out with no string or rubber attached to bring it back to you. Man's extremity is God's opportunity, is true. For when man reaches his limit, he hopelessly stops his efforts. When he relaxes from his strain, the law has a chance to reply to his desires, and things begin to change for him. Have you not seen this work in trivial things, such as books or clothing or invitations or a desire to see a certain friend? Possibly at some time you sent out a thought or a desire and then forgot completely about it. The next thing you know, you received the invitation, or you were walking down the street and bumped right into the friend you so desired to meet. Yet somehow, when it comes to more important things, to larger things, we fail to release our desires and prayers as readily, and anxiety and tension holds everything fast. nothing worthwhile is accomplished. The mind is like a sponge. We squeeze it hard with our anxious thoughts, but not until we can release the pressure and allow the sponge to take its normal shape can it become absorbent and receptive again. Once we have expressed our needs through prayer or otherwise, some believe that is all we must do. On the contrary, we are working with a law that is definite and active, and this is only the beginning of our work. The principle of life upon which this law is based is clearly written. It reads, "Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over." Giving always precedes and predetermines the reception, whether you are giving your thought, your word, your service, or your deed. Some folks may consider this law as a two-way law, that is, half the time you should be busy giving, and the other half of your time you should be receiving. It is like the proposition of heat and cold. They are two sides to the same law. That is, if we concentrate upon cold and hope and pray to get heat, we are likely to freeze to death. What we must do is to give all our thought and effort toward building a fire, or seeking that which will create heat to warm us. If we concentrate upon receiving, not giving any thought or idea or desire to build upon, we, in like manner, may perish. The law says, "It is more blessed to give than to receive," and, "As you freely give, you freely receive." Unless we are free to extend or give out our desire, our good, the law will not have any pattern to work with. It cannot proceed to supply any need without a pattern. Many try to work the law backwards, and for that reason get little or no results. They say to themselves, "Well, after I get, then I will give." If you wish any good thing, you must first give some good to build upon. A young man gives his girlfriend a gift, a paste diamond. Later, when he got into financial difficulties, his friend, most anxious to help him to tide over, wrote a kindly note and wished him every success in meeting his obligations. She enclosed the gift he had given her and suggested that he sell it to satisfy his need. The young man was sorry then that he had not given his friend a diamond of real worth. He got back at a time when he needed help most that which he had given out, an imitation instead of the genuine. When we speak of giving, most people have a tendency to think first of giving their money. Money, an object of human affections so passionate that men will slay and steal to gain its possession, is by nature so obedient to our will that we can hold it gently in our hand or fold it fondly in our purse without feeling any resistance from its nature. With all the selfish getting ideas which man attaches to it, man has not changed its nature or its purpose. What does money get out of constantly giving itself into hands that so eagerly grasp it? Nothing. Nothing beyond the joy of giving itself in the fulfillment of its mission. Man may do some terrible deed to obtain it. He may pay it for something detrimental to his progress. But in all these exchanges, man, not money, loses value. Just as the sun shines on the just and the unjust alike, so money passes through the deserving and undeserving hand to accomplish its work. Its purpose is exchange without discrimination, leaving the latter to the mind that is using it. Money goes merrily on its way, losing nothing in self-value in giving itself. Money came into form to fill the need for exchange, and on that purpose it is all intent. Let our attitude toward it be what it may, money will remain true to its nature as long as it is needed by its master, man. If we fail to pay full value in an exchange, we fail to understand the prospering law back of the idea. Money represents the law of services. Its value is the estimation of worth placed upon it by the mind of man, while its form is designed to ensure the easiest exchange. When we give our best in some useful service, forgetful of self, concentrating on the joy of giving instead of concentrating on the returns, we find that our purpose and the purpose of money have blended, and we come together in righteousness and eternal good. So often I hear people say, "Well, I do give, and sometimes until it hurts, but I seldom see any sign of a return." There is a right way and a wrong way to give. There is a careless, impulsive giving, and there is a careful, scientific giving. When we give to a person or group of persons where we are retarding progress, we are wasting our substance. Where we give to one who doesn't put forth the effort to help himself, we need not expect a good return. Nature does not support a parasite or a loafer, but she gives her energy to the ones who are struggling forward. She lets the parasite and the loafer see that she will help if they put forth the effort to help themselves. But with us, if we support a loafer in what he is in, how can we expect any good returns? Rather, the loafer becomes arrogant and demanding far more and more relief, until we wonder where and when it will end. A woman once gave her daughter, when she married, a home fully furnished, and set the son-in-law in a good business. The business from year to year was always needing more funds to carry it over, and she continued giving her money to him until it was almost exhausted. When she had gotten down to a small income and living in one room, she wanted to know why she was not blessed for her generosity. She gave as she thought best, but it paid in losses and bitter words. The son-in-law demanded more help until she had no more to give. Then she was unwelcome in their home and invited to leave. Her mistake was in her judgment. She was as much at fault as the dependent son, for she was part of the cause of his failure. I directed her to stay away from the young couple and let them sink or swim by themselves. I was sure they would find themselves. She followed my advice, and within a year the young man had put his business on a paying basis. For the first time it was operating at a profit. The home life was restored to a normal state, and all were happier because their efforts were being directed into right channels. The young man was proud of his efforts that enabled him to make good on his own merit. A practical interpretation of the law is, when you see someone making an effort to help himself, that is the time to assist him, but do not give of your substance to the one who will not help himself, or at least try. The latter type will not only misuse your gift, but will abuse you if and when you cease giving. Jesus gave his substance always where it would do the most good. He fed the multitude because they were seeking good, not because they were begging food. Nowhere do we find him giving as much as a thought to anyone except those who desired to improve and grow. He cautioned others about unwise giving. Do not throw your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn and rend you. He meant simply, do not give your substance to anyone who cannot appreciate it or improve with it. It is as foolish as giving a child a loaded gun and expecting him to realize the danger as you do. Sooner or later, the child, through lack of appreciation, will either hurt someone or get hurt, to the sorrow of all concerned. You cannot build something on nothing and expect something in return. If, in your giving, there is no principle of good in some measure, no matter how small, to add to, then you are casting your pearls away. You are wasting your substance. Many have found tithing a successful form of giving, but the questioning mind wonders, why would tithing be more potent than any other form of giving? It is more potent because you touch the law of giving and receiving in a definite, orderly, and systematic way of giving. You establish a methodical plan of giving which creates a steady flow of reciprocal good to be received. When one's method of giving is sporadic or occasional, one's reception of good is irregular and uncertain. Scientists analyze it. They say that tithing gives man a self-reliance, a confidence which enables him to build up a positive mental attitude which attracts success. Others say that a tither already has considerable confidence to take the chance to spend his money that way. This makes him a positive type and attracts only positive and goodly conditions. Then there are others who take a spiritual view toward tithing and assume that God is their partner and they are paying only 1/10 of their receipts as his share. Then, too, some make the mistake in tithing when they give for selfish gain or when they make a bargain of it. Remember, it is not the money you give, it is the idea back of the giving that is so vital. If you give money and the idea is wholly one of bargaining, your mind is not free. Therefore, your results cannot be free and full-flowing. Tithing, no matter what one may think about it, if one thinks at all, has a tendency to bring man into line with the law of giving, and his results will be in proportion to the honesty, sincerity, and spirit of his gift. Jesus praised and blessed the widow who gave her all, her mite, into the church coffer, but criticized the rich man offering his bags of gold. Why do you suppose he took exception in this case to praise the lowly gift of the widow? He knew the law of giving was in action. It was the spirit of her gift that prompted his blessing. When John D. Rockefeller was a poor boy, he was able to apply the law early in his life. When he earned his first money, he kept a record of his givings and his receivings, and he kept a ledger all through life. It is known that he gave away more than $500 million. Possibly, we can judge why he received so much to give. But after we give, that is not all we must do. Our next step is to prepare to receive the response or results of our giving and to receive, as the law states, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. This is the most interesting part because our preparation shows our active faith. Instead of rocking and waiting, we are preparing and working. This, in turn, enlarges our view. It stimulates our interest, it disperses our doubt and fear, and energizes our power of reception. This was clearly illustrated by Elijah the prophet, when the 3 kings came to him and asked him to pray for them that they would be victorious in battle, and that they might have rain to supply their soldiers and animals. Elijah told the kings to go back to their camps and prepare for the morrow. Prepare to receive the water they asked for by digging ditches. Now, if you have ever been in the desert, you will know that it was a most foolish idea to dig ditches in the sand and expect rain to fall. But the kings did as they were told. They prepared for the rain by digging the ditches, and clouds gathered and rain fell, and the ditches were filled. The men and their beasts were satisfied. Their thirst was quenched, and going into battle strengthened, they were victorious. Elijah, knowing the law, instructed them to prepare and made the way easy for them to receive. The key to the law then is, we are continually drawing into life what we give and expect. Whether we attract good or bad, it is governed by this same principle. You have probably made the remark, "Oh yes, it is just as I expected," and especially when some unpleasant condition or circumstance arose. You invited a condition just because you gave out the thought of expecting it. You can also expect good to appear on the same principle, and you can help it to come to pass by the method of your preparation. Many failures in demonstrations are because we do not force our expectations to keep apace with our desires. Very often we desire one thing and expect in our hearts another, which creates confusion. The Master said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." When a mind is confused, there is no cooperation, nor is there united force to attract the strength it requires. Positive mental radiations will drive away all clouds of doubt and fear with confident expectation that all things will work all right. You operate a law that can and will put matters right. There is a power within, greater by far than any difficulty that you can ever meet. That power will never fail to see you through. You may ask, can I desire things not ready for me to have? Can I ask too much of the law? Does the law withhold things from me which are not for my good? True desire represents the urge of life, seeking a fuller expression, and is kept alive by continuous expectation of its fulfillment. It brings to us ways and means for its manifestations. The principle explains, No desire is felt until the supply is ready to appear. No mind can be conscious of a need or of a desire unless the possibility of its fulfillment exists. Your prayer, your desire, and your inner urge are like a magnet, and the stronger they are, the stronger the power of your magnet, and the greater its attraction. You cannot ask too much of the law, for it is unlimited, and the supply is inexhaustible. You can get only what you can conceive, what you can understand. You can get only the equivalent to what you give. The law does not withhold any more than mathematics withholds its numbers. You may receive some things that appear not good, but yet good may come through them, like mistakes in mathematics. Whereas you make many mistakes, the mistakes enable you by their correction to better know the law. After you have made one or several corrections, you will never again repeat the same mistake. So in that way, the law has served you well and has supplied you with a greater knowledge. The Lord loveth a cheerful giver. The law serveth a free and willing giver. Whatever you give, give it with a free and willing spirit. Give it out with no obligations or dictations attached. Then it will come back to you unburdened with obligations or restrictions of any form. He who gives much receives much. To give your best is to receive the best in ratio to the degree of your giving. The reason why so many people receive little is because they give out so little. They are poverty-stricken because they refuse to give. Whatever the nature of your possessions, give and give abundantly. You are to give of your life, interest, energy, thought, ability, love, appreciation, and helpfulness. In giving of your life, thought, and love, in doing gladly and well whatever you may be called upon to do, you express your best, and the more you give, the more you receive. This does not mean that you are to give to the selfish and thoughtless, but to so order your life as to make a full and proper use of your energies, faculties, and talents in useful living. If today your abilities are small and your powers insignificant, begin now to make a more thorough use of them, and they will grow. Recall the story of the master and his servants to whom he gave each a talent, some 2, some 3, and others more, and from whom he expected a harvest according to their respective endowments. There was greater joy in heaven over him who had but 1 talent and used it well than over him who had many talents but failed to employ them in useful service. Hence the servant with 1 talent took the highest place. In other words, the individual who makes full use of what he has shall be blessed with more and more, for in what measure ye mete, it shall be measured unto thee again. That is the path of increase. That is the secret of the law of receiving. If the business world accepts the giving of service as the basis of success and progress, can we not accept the same truth in our business of living life? This is not a religious plea. This is good logic, or plain common sense. For if the law works in one department, it surely will work in every department wherever we choose to apply it. Whatever you desire in the way of health, success, happiness, riches, or power, start toward it. Start it on its way by this procedure. The law works. The results are sure because a natural principle is involved. You may proceed without doubt or fear to desire and to expect all the good you can realize, use, and enjoy. When the mind of man becomes unselfish to the point of yielding to the law, man has been born anew, for his attitude toward the law, himself, and his fellow men has changed, and his affairs take on the character of his newness of thought. Giving by Arthur William Beer. To get he had tried, yet his store was still meager. To a wise man he cried, in a voice keen and eager, "Pray tell me how I may successfully live." And the wise man replied, "To get, you must give." As to giving, he said, "What have I to give? I've scarce enough bread, and of course one must live, but I would partake of life's bountiful store." Came the wise man's response, "Then you must give more." The lesson he learned, to get was forgotten, Toward mankind he turned with a love new begotten. As he gave of himself in unselfish living, then joy crowned his days, for he grew rich in giving.